The question is that the document be noted, and I'll call the member for Riverina.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This is an important bill, an important statement to talk about Australia's international obligations in the environment space, and noting that in the 9 years we were in government, we had rooftop solar on 1 in 4 houses. That was world's best. That was world's best practice. And a lot is often said condemning what the coalition did or didn't do during our 3 terms in office. But rest assured, money for such vital environmental projects that Landcare put out, that they did right throughout the country, we made huge investments in ensuring that our waterways were as they should be. Huge investments and consideration for the soil. And with the member for Paterson, I am very pleased to be the co-chair of the Parliamentary Friends of Soil, because what we can do as a nation in being good environmental stewards to deal with climate action is right beneath our feet. What we should be doing more of is making sure that there's carbon sequestration. What we should be doing is making sure that, that the soil we have is healthy and protected, because if we don't, we're going to lead to more soil degradation, more soil salinity, and you would know that yourself, Deputy Speaker, coming from Lingiari, that massive electorate in the Northern Territory, and I know right throughout the nation, our soil needs to be preserved and protected. I note too in her 15 November 2023 address, statement on international environmental leadership, the Minister for the Environment and Water talked about Labor promising a fresh approach to leadership in the environment, and mentioned in only the 3rd sentence in that particular statement that that Labor was renewing Australia's relationships abroad, particularly in the Pacific, establishing trust in the Pacific. There was always trust in the Pacific. It annoys me that this rubbish is perpetuated by those opposite about the fact that we have never looked after or we ignored the Pacific. The Pacific is our neighbourhood. It's our environment, and we have been very good friends with our Pacific friends, no less so than the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Senator Maurice Payne, who did a power of good, a power of work in the Pacific to ensure that those links which stretch back many decades were continued, were built upon and were enhanced. And speaking of the Pacific, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, call it the Pacific Trash Vortex, the North Pacific Garbage Patch, whatever you like, it is an alarming concern. It is indeed growing. The Ocean Cleanup Project's researchers claim that the patch covers 1.6 million square kilometres. That is massive, 3 times, I think, the size of France. And it includes many items of plastic. And I think if we are going to address climate, then we have this folly in this nation that we're going to close down every coal mine, every coal-fired power station tomorrow. And I see the member for Hunter opposite. That would destroy his communities in his electorate. We have this rush towards renewables, this linear approach towards getting to net zero by 2050, which is dictating that Labor needs to out-green the Greens political party at times. And there is great folly in this, because if those opposite truly believe that we are going to have worse weather, that we are going to have more severe droughts, more severe flooding, more severe weather events having an impact on our environment, having an impact on our communities, having an impact on, indeed, insurance premiums, then why the rush to renewables, where Labor is going to rely on the weather, rely on wind, rely on all of those things, hydroelectricity, etc., to power our nation? And if Labor wants, as the member for Boothby said, a future made in Australia, with manufacturing made in Australia, producing goods made right here and not necessarily relying on those that come from abroad, then we're going to have good, reliable, available, affordable power supplies. And that energy just can't come from just solar and wind, because as it's been often stated and decried by those opposite, when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, the battery storage capacity at the moment and the technology just isn't at that point. It may well be in the future. It may well be in the future, but it's not right here, right now. And that is why we need to have a mix. That is why we need to have a balance. And that is why I believe, and so do the coalition members, that we need to have a national, rational discussion about the possibility of having nuclear in that mix. Because to get to net zero 2050, like so many other nations in the world, so many other progressive economic leaders in the world, we need to be able to have nuclear as part of the energy mix and not rely solely or too heavily on wind and solar and renewables. Now, the difficulty too that I think we face as local communities, and all politics is local, is that, and particularly up in northern New South Wales and other parts of the nation that I have visited, is that they are running out of room for their rubbish tips. And they are running out of room, and people, more and more people, I mean, we're such a consumer society, it's a consumer-driven society. You buy a shirt these days and you unpack it, and you've got any number of pins and cardboard and plastic that it weighs actually, and plastic surrounding it, it weighs even more than the actual product itself. You buy a 3-pack of soap these days, and each cake of soap is contained in its own box within a box. And this is all leading to more and more landfill. And what are we doing to address that? I have to pay credit to former Environment Minister, Member for Farrer, Susan Lee. She did a lot of work in this space to ensure that we were addressing these sorts of issues. But we do need to have not a war on plastic, but we do need to have careful consideration of what we do in this space so that we are just not making more and more landfill. And I can well remember going to Nairobi in Kenya not that long ago, and they had a rubbish dump there, which was started in the late 80s, early 90s, which then had filled up by the early 2000s and was closed. But they still continue to deliver rubbish there. And sadly, thousands upon thousands, particularly of young females, but women in particular, young girls and women, are going there each day, and they pick through the rubbish that is collected there. And if you can see this rubbish dump from outer space. That is how large it is. We don't want a repeat of that anywhere in the world, and I know that Kenya as a nation is doing its level best and utmost to address their plastic problem, because you're not allowed to take plastic bags into the country. If you get caught at customs or at the borders bringing in a plastic bag, even to put your clothes in or whatever the case might be within your luggage, then you cop a fine, and that's probably a good thing given the problem that they have at the Nairobi rubbish dump. But to my point about local councils, they are running out of room for their landfill, and we as a parliament and indeed state governments need to address this problem too, because we need to have better recycling. We need to encourage more recycling. We throw out so many materials, bottles and plastics, that could easily be recycled. Whether there's the room and the political will to be able to incentivise that process remains to be seen. But this is an important statement. I appreciate that the government will always say it's doing better than what we ever did, but that is truly not the case. But we don't need to lead the Greens in a power-sharing arrangement in any future government to lead us all down an environmental path which would be very bad for business and very bad for household budgets.